Hi, everyone. Dr. Sheena Howard here, founder of Power Your Research. Welcome to the Holiday Marathon, where you are going to learn the top ways to translate your work for a mass audience. If you're looking to get more visibility, more media coverage, and get your work from behind that academic paywall, these are the videos for you. Enjoy. Hi, everyone. I am going to talk briefly in this live about how thought leaders or academics can use the diffusion of innovation theory to understand how to grow their platform and build their brand and take the work and research that you do to the next level. And my creative coach got me thinking about the diffusion of innovation theory in a way that actually applied to my platform and my brand, because as a professor of communication, and as someone with a degree in marketing, I'm used to thinking of the diffusion of innovation theory in terms of big brands and big products, but it's actually very useful in thinking about your own personal academic brand and how you can grow it. And more importantly, the things that you should be focusing on in order to grow your brand and amplify your platform. Now, this is just one piece in understanding um, the tools and methods behind growing your platform, but it's very useful in understanding how you can do that. So, the diffusion of innovation. The diffusion of innovation theory categorizes people based on innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and the laggards. I don't think you can see the term on the far right hand side of the screen. Those are the laggards. And so in this model, we're not really going to be focusing on the laggards. We really want to understand deeply what's happening in the innovator and early adopter space, because those are the people that you should be focusing on. Now, as you can see in this diagram, early majority and late majority are the majority of people, right? That's kind of everybody's dream, right? If we're an academic and we're thinking about people like Brene Brown and those sort of academics who everyone knows, they've managed to translate their research in a way where mostly everyone knows them. They've reached the place on this diagram where the majority of people have adopted the thing that they're selling or adopted their brand. So 66% of people fall in the early majority and late majority category. And our first inclination might be to think, yeah, I want to get in front of the 66%, right? How do I reach them? How do I reach them? How do I make them happy? But actually, as you're building your academic brand, you actually want to be focused on the innovators and the early adopters. So innovators are those people that are going to be risk takers, right? Those are going to be what I like to call your day ones, right? The people that already might be following your work, the people outside of academia, particularly since I teach academics how to grow their work outside of academia. You might have some early fans, right? Some early people that want to read your books, that tune into your videos, that follow you on social media. The things that describe the innovators are risk takers. They want to be the first, right? They want to be the first to get that new music, to get that new iPhone, right? It's just a function of their personality. And a lot of us have innovators that follow us right now. But this whole diagram, what you're looking at, is all about social pressure. So the key is to get the innovators to apply pressure to the early adopters so that the early adopters also care about your brand and the things that you're selling. And then the early adopters put social pressure on the early majority, because now the early majority is getting positive feedback and testimonials. Oh, don't you know Sheena Howard? Don't you know her work? X, Y, and Z. So what you should be focusing on this diagram are the people that already follow you, the people that care about your work. If you haven't done the work to start amplifying your platform and getting in front of more people and doing media spots and things like that, you want to start doing those so that you can understand who your fan base is, so that you can make them happy, post on social media, offer them content, get your mailing list up, make them super happy so that they can put social pressure on all of the other pieces of this theoretical framework so that you can get to that centerpiece and reach the 66%. Now, one other thing that I want to mention, because there's a lot more to this, but I like to keep these lives short. One other thing that I like to remember is the chasm here. So most people that are building a brand or selling a product, they never make it past this chasm. And one of the main reasons why is because they're so focused on creating content for the early majority and the late majority, who actually are not your day ones, right? Who actually are not convinced about what you have to offer yet. They're so busy trying to reach this part of the diagram that they leave their early day ones, their innovators behind, and they don't focus on them. So make the people that are already following you happy, figure out who your audience is, figure out who that 2% is, that 3.5% that already follow you. There's lots of ways and tools and tactics that I can show you how to do this. There'll be a link somewhere around here to join the Power Your Research Masterclass for free, so you can learn more of the specific tools to getting yourself over this chasm to reach a large majority of people. Sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't, but I am here to give you some free advice and tips on how you can leverage your academic credentials to scale your income and protect your future from the institution or university that you may be working for. I'm also here to teach you how to increase your income if you have already decided to leave academe, but you have academic credentials. And today the topic is why your branding work is failing. Okay, maybe you've tried to get consistent high paid speaking engagements and people are still not making the offers that you want. You're not at that 3,500 rate for a 1 hour talk, or that $5,000 rate for a 1 hour talk, or 7,000 or 10,000, whatever your number is. Maybe you're not getting the media coverage and visibility you think that you deserve, or the media coverage and visibility that you want. Maybe you have no idea. If I asked you to explain to me in one sentence, what is your brand statement? Who do you help? What do you do? Maybe you are not clear on that. Whatever it is, in this video, I am here to offer you a few different reasons why your personal brand work is failing. And it could be many reasons as we dig through with clients in the Power Your Research program. But some of these reasons you're not going to like, but it is the truth. First of all, you just may not be kind enough. Yes, I said kind, Kind. Building a personal brand is not about you. It's about the people you want to serve and help. So if you went into building a personal brand, getting media coverage and visibility, but you're not really doing it to give back, to help people, to add value to people's lives, to transform their lives in some way, it's not going to be sustainable. One, you're not going to be able to sustain the work involved, right? Because you're not giving value to other people outside of yourself. And two, you're not going to be able to create the community that you need to create, and you're not going to be making decisions that are in the best interest of others. You need to be kind, a kind person, willing to give information to others. I'm showing up on these calls and I'm just giving you advice. I'm just giving you tips. I'm telling you some of the things I know. Now, I can't go into tactical things and systems, right? Because, I do that in the Power Your Research program, but I don't have to be on these lives doing this. I've given people free 1 hour coaching calls because I know they needed the help, right? Some people who are most nervous about hiring a coach or paying for a program are the people who need it the most. And I recognize that. And so you need to be in this game to help other people. You need to be kind. You need to be willing to give information away. The second reason why your personal branding work may be failing is because you don't have boundaries. Okay. Any entrepreneur will tell you that to be a successful entrepreneur, you need to have boundaries. And in the Power Your Research program, I'm teaching academics and educators how to think more like entrepreneurs, because educators and academics are used to getting a paycheck that is signed by someone else. So, in order to build your personal brand, you are building your business. You are the business, and you can monetize yourself, but you need to have boundaries. Just because someone asks you to do more committee work or go to this conference or do this thing or meet with this person doesn't mean you have to say yes. You need to have boundaries. Imagine if everybody that asked me for a free coaching call, I said yes. I wouldn't make any money and I wouldn't have time to be here giving more people advice. So, you need to have boundaries. You need to have boundaries at your 9 to 5 job, whether you are a faculty member or an adjunct or doing something else for income. You need to have boundaries so that you can reach the goals and the vision that you have set for yourself. So, number 2 is start having boundaries and not feeling bad for having those boundaries. The third reason why your personal branding work is probably failing is because you have an unclear offer. People don't know why they should be following you. People don't know how or why you should help them. People don't know that you have a book. They don't know that you do consulting. They don't know that you do speaking engagements. For all they know, you're just a faculty member at a university and institution, and you only work with college kids. Do me a favor. Here's an exercise for you. Think about your 1 or 2 closest friends, your 1 or 2 closest friends. And let's use this example. Let's say you're a faculty member. It doesn't matter if you're adjunct, tenure, non-tenure, it doesn't matter. Let's say you're a faculty member or you have a 9 to 5 job. Shoot 2 of your closest friends an email, or call them up on the phone and say, hey, do you know how I make money besides my 9 to 5 job? Ask them, what ways do I make money besides my 9 to 5 job? And if they say, I don't know, I just know that you're a faculty member, I thought that was how you make your money. If you are interested in doing speaking engagements or making money consulting, or you have a little coaching business and your friends don't say, oh, I know you do speaking engagements, I know you have a coaching business, I know you do consulting, you don't have a clear offer. If your closest friends don't know what you sell, what you monetize, what you want to make money on, then the world doesn't know. And that means the world can't pay you. Get clear on what you're offering, get clear on what you are selling, get clear on what you want people to pay you for. So that is reason number 3 of why your offer, why your branding work may be failing. The next reason is you're not creating a community. And this is the last one because I'm way over 5 minutes today, but that's fine because I haven't done as many of these lives as I would have liked over the last couple weeks. The last reason why your personal branding work may be failing is because you're not creating a community. You understand that you need to be on social media. You use it, you may not use it well, right? You may not be posting 2 to 3 times a day on your platforms. Okay. You understand that you need social media, but you're forgetting about the word social. You create a community by being social. When people comment, when people DM you and ask you questions, you need to be responding in depth. Okay. You need to be reaching out to people and networking with people. You need to be social on social media. That is how you create a community. On Instagram, okay, that's where I do all of my creative work. I make most of my money on Instagram through my writing platform. LinkedIn is for my academic branding, helping the academics and educators, so I don't post the same content. But on my Instagram, it's a lot of work to respond to all those comments, to post engaging content every day, to respond to the DMs, to mail out books to people who are DMing me because I have a sales funnel through Instagram. It is a lot of work. But in order to build a community of people who you can help and who want to pay you money to do certain things, you have to be social. There is no way around it. You're not going to have that 6-figure brand, 7-figure brand, get brand deals, get coaching and consulting clients for thousands of dollars, get high paid speaking engagements if you're not doing the social in social media. And there are lots more different ways to build community. But Just because it's about personal academic brand work, you actually it should be called community brand, because is nothing, it is personal because you need to have your own personal vision and do the work. But without the community, you don't have a brand. Because if people are not talking about you, if people are not referring you, if people are not paying you, if people are not getting you on their podcast, if people are not connecting with you, you don't have a brand. So you need the community, you need to be social with the community. And so I need you to start doing the work of building a community. Every day you should be responding to comments, to DMs. You should be helping people. You should be going live. You should have a clear, compelling offer. You should have sales funnels. You should have all of those things. If you want to learn more, let's jump on a free 30-minute consultation call. The link will be somewhere around this box, depending on where you're watching it. We'll talk about building your brand. If you're not ready to jump on to a 30-minute consultation call, jump in the free Power Your Research Masterclass. It's free. It comes with an ebook. It's about 90 minutes. You'll come there, you'll take notes, you'll get a lot of information, some things you'll be able to get started with immediately. If you like these lives and you want to implement some of the things I'm talking about, go ahead and jump into the free Power Your Research Masterclass. Grab your spot. These 9 steps to increase your visibility, authority, and income. Now, by taking control of your brand and building your brand intentionally, you can increase your income by 25% at minimum, and you can increase what you are charging for speaking gigs, consulting, and things like that. And this extra income has nothing to do with the university or institution you work for. And by following these 9 steps, which I'm quickly going to go over, you can get to a place where you're building equity in your own personal academic brand and monetizing that brand along the way, so that you can get to a place where you're protecting your future, where you're making money by positioning yourself as a thought leader in the area that you are an expert in, or the thing that you want to be talking about on the TED stage or in media coverage, um, everywhere, media coverage everywhere, right? So we're going to go through these 9 steps. And the first one is mindset matters. Now, a lot of us, when we think about talking about ourselves or our area of expertise, the first thing that we have to get over is the mental roadblock. So, self promotion tends to feel really icky, right? It doesn't feel like something that we want to do. It might even feel a little salesy, but your research, your area of expertise, the thing that you want to be known for and out in the world talking about, has the power to change someone's life. It doesn't matter if you do media research like me around representation, or if you're an actual medical doctor, whatever your area of expertise is, it has the ability to impact people and change their lives. And so when we think about the word self and self promotion, you have to reframe that to understand that self promotion is actually not at all about you. It's actually about the people in the community that you want your work and research to impact. And the only way to get in front of those people is to get comfortable with talking about the things that you are an expert in. And we'll get a little in a few minutes when we get up to the 7th, 8th, and 9th step. We'll talk about the psychology behind increasing your speaking engagement rate. You can increase your speaking engagement rate right now, right here on this call. You can increase what you're charging for speaking engagements, and we'll tackle that in a few minutes, because I like to keep these live videos short. So the second step, so the first step is mindset matters, getting your mindset around understanding the power and impact of self promotion, so that you can get in front of more of the people that you're researching and writing about, or more, get in front of more of the people that you want to reach. The second step is creating your vision. Okay, so a lot of us have goals, right? To get a PhD is a goal. To get tenure is a goal, to, do all of these things are goals, but we want to think about our goals as a collection of things that are going to lead us to our vision. And so our vision is more like what we want our days to look like. What do you want your days to look like? Are you happy with the way your day looks like now, from the time that you wake up to the time that you go to bed? Creating a vision is writing down, well, what do I actually want my life to look like, without thinking about the how am I going to get there? What's the kind of ideal day for me? Now, we all have to go to work, but we do have the power to create the type of days and the things that we want to be spending our time on. And when we get to the next step about creating your brand statement, your vision is going to be connected to your brand statement. And having a vision, right? Not thinking about the how you're going to get to this vision, but just having the vision and thinking about your ideal day is going to connect to your purpose and your brand statement. Now, part of your vision is going to be a of goals for how you want to amplify your platform. So some people, they come to me and they want to do things like TED Talks, and other people don't, right? We all have different platforms that we might want to do an interview on, or be covered on, or do an op-ed at, or we want certain places to feature us. We have to identify the platforms that we want to be on. So for me, my goals were things like being on NPR, BBC, being on The Breakfast Club, being on ABC, right? And I accomplished all my those goals. But when you have those media placement goals in connection with a vision and a brand statement, it unlocks a whole new level of being able to monetize your brand, being able to charge more for speaking engagements, moving further away from doing free speaking engagements and the like. The number one question I get when I talk to clients about increasing their authority, visibility, and income, and becoming a thought leader, the number one question I get is, how do I charge more for speaking engagements? Well, the first thing is being intentional about the brand that you have out in the world. And we all have a brand because of the internet. Either our brand's going to be made for us. So if you Google your name, that's your brand in the online space. So you either can be in control of what that looks like, or you can have your brand created for us. So mindset is one, vision is the second part of the system. Brand building, so that means creating your brand statement. So my brand statement is, I create experiences for free thinkers to feel empowered when they're challenging the status quo. So everything I do is going to fall under that brand statement. And if it doesn't, then I'm not going to take that opportunity. I'm not going to spend energy doing that speaking engagement. I'm not going to write that book. I'm not going to be on this call, because I want to create experiences for a certain type of person to feel a certain type of way when they're doing a certain type of thing. And that's the formula of your brand statement. Anybody can have a unique, powerful brand statement that helps them say yes to certain opportunities and no to certain opportunities if you do the work to create that brand statement. Now, along with your brand statement, you also want to know your brand archetype and your brand adjectives. Which we actually cover in the Power Your Research Masterclass, which is free. So if you're watching this video live, you might not be able to see the link to join the Power Your Research Masterclass right now, but after the video is complete, check back on this post and you will see a link to join the free Power Your Research Masterclass, which is actually going to go over all of this stuff more in depth. It's a 90-minute masterclass, so check that out. It is free to you. So the fourth step is going to be media strategy, because getting media coverage is not luck. And you don't want to be doing media interviews and placements on a hodgepodge of random places, especially if it's not in line with your brand. I see professors all of the time. They get asked to do interviews for things that's not necessarily in their wheelhouse, and you can tell that the person is uncomfortable, or their media spot goes viral and now they're known for something that they're actually not comfortable talking about or comfortable being positioning themselves as an expert in. And if you're a professor watching this, you know, just by having a PhD or doing research in a certain area, the media might email you every once in a while and ask you to do interviews or things like that. And if you know your brand statement, if you know your vision, you'll know how to say yes or no to these certain media spots that you're being asked to do, because there's nothing worse than going viral for something you don't believe in, or talking in a media spot and it's not really authentically you. And then it's really hard to backtrack on the brand that is now out there for you. And you can take control of the media placements that you get, and you can get high level media placements by having a media strategy. So when you pitch, let's say you want to be on a show on NPR or ABC, or you want to write an op-ed in your area of expertise, whatever it is, you need to pitch through the lens of, is it timely, is it relevant, is it newsworthy, right? So when you're sending that email to pitch your op-ed or your blog post to high level media outlets or media spots, you need to give them the story in a few sentences. You need to tell them, how is this timely, how is this relevant, how is this newsworthy, which is oftentimes connected to what's going on in society, right? So if you do research right now on Russia and war and historical war and the reasons for war, now is the time that you should be pitching yourself based on that area of expertise, and you can get on high level media outlets because of your area of expertise. It's lots of ways that you can craft your area of expertise with what is going on in society or what is coming up in society, like special calendar days, holidays, right? You can connect the thing that you do so that when you're pitching media outlets, you're doing it through that lens that I just explained. Is it timely, relevant, and newsworthy? And you'll see that you're going to be getting media coverage a lot quicker, but you have to have a strategy. So one of the things I teach, you need to go sign up for a free profile on HARO, Help a Reporter Out. HARO, go get your free profile so you can start getting expert quotes in high level media outlets. Now, the next step, we're at step number 6. So step number 1 was change your mindset, have a vision, build your brand, have a media strategy, go after those media placements. Step number 6 is media blitz, because once you start getting success with pitching yourself, which is not hard to do, it just takes a little bit of time. But we would all want to invest a little bit of time if the return on investment was going to be charging more for speaking engagements, getting high level consulting gigs offered to you, and getting in front of the people that you want to help and monetizing your brand. I think we would all be okay with spending a little time to pitch ourselves. You just have to do it the right way so you can get from where you are today to where you said you wanted to go in your vision plan the quickest. So step number 6 is creating a media blitz. I encourage you to take the Power Your Research free masterclass, because media blitz is far too expansive to explain in this quick live video. But basically what it is once you start using the techniques that I'm explaining to you and you're getting lots of media coverage, you need to be active on social media. So a lot of academics come to me and they're saying they don't understand Twitter. Instagram is for the young people. You go to their social media pages and it's a hodgepodge of random things with their kids or a cat or the thing that they ate yesterday. But you need to use social media as a tool to position yourself based on the things that you're already an expert in so that you can attract the right type of opportunities. And once you connect your media strategy to posting on social media about the media coverage you're getting, you don't have to implement your media strategy anymore, because more news outlets are going to come to you because you're doing the work of being active on social media, particularly Twitter. I like to focus on Twitter because that's where all the journalist producers are. That's what I teach to my clients, and it's super effective. So you want to do a media blitz once you start getting media coverage, which simply just means you're posting about all of the media coverage, op-eds, and things that you do. Even if there's old media spots, you want to remind the people that are consuming your content, hey, I've been on ABC. Hey, check out this clip from NPR that I was on. Hey, I just dropped an op-ed, letting them know, creating that frenzy. So when they come to your social media, and you don't have to, by the way, let me just stop here for a second. You don't have to master all social media platforms. There's lots of them. You don't have to be on Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn and TikTok, right? Pick one and be good at that one. Master that one. For me, that was Twitter. If you go to my Twitter, you'll see that I'm verified. You'll see that I'm active. You'll see that there's a lot going on. Now I have moved to mastering Instagram, but you don't need to do all of them at once. You just need to do one really well. I teach and I suggest Twitter if you're interested in becoming a thought leader and increasing your platform and doing things like TED Talks, which leads me to steps 7, 8, and 9, which I'm going to go through really quickly because I like to keep these videos under 15 minutes. So, step 7 is you did the work. You have your media strategy. You're landing media placements. You know what to do on social media. People are paying attention. You're getting opportunities because now you're in front of the audience that you need to be in front of. You're helping the people and visible to the people that you research and write about. Now we want to scale your brand so that you're building equity in your brand so you can get to a place where you're protecting your future, meaning you have a brand that you can monetize and make money off of, regardless of your full-time job paycheck, right? There's so much money to make in your brand. So this is going to look like consistently doing speaking engagements for no less than 3,500. If you have a PhD, you should not be doing speaking engagements for less than 3,500, right? And then psychologically understanding how to negotiate and ask for the speaking engagement rate that you want to have. So step 7 is going to be monetize. Step 8 is going to be really building equity in your brand. Lots of different ways through coaching and consulting that we can talk about if you do a one-on-one call with me. And step 9 is where you come out on the other end, protecting your future as a notable and confident thought leader. So we're going to end there because I'm at the, or simply posting your book on social media every day, as much as possible. Because if you're in this course, you most likely have tried those things and they have not worked. It's hard to sell books, right? Because there's so many books out there and there's literally so much competition, particularly in the self-published space, but in the book publishing industry as a whole. And everybody's in this boat together, trying to figure out how to get more visibility around their book, because the fact of the matter is, if people don't know about your book, they cannot buy it. So sometimes we want to jump very quickly to just thinking about how can I sell this book? Who can I sell this book to? But you need to take a step back and first think about visibility. Because again, if people don't know your book exists, they cannot buy your book. So you need strategies around getting in front of the highest number of people you can get in front of so that you have the chance to sell your book to those people. And more importantly, you have to get in front of the right people. Okay. You can't sell something to the wrong audience, right? You can't, if you're trying to sell something to someone that has no chance of buying your product, then you're getting your book in front of the wrong people because they don't want your product at all. So we're going to talk about a lot of these things throughout the course of this 90 minutes that I have with you. And I'm happy to have you here. If you are here, you probably know a little bit about who I am and what I do. But for those of you that don't, I'm going to do a little introduction of myself so that you know who I am and what perspective I'm coming from in terms of the information that I am going to be sharing with you. So my name is Dr. Sheena Howard. I am a professor of communication, an award-winning writer, and I'm also a creative entrepreneur with multiple companies. And, you may have seen me and or my work in places like NPR, NBC, ABC, PBS, Good Morning America, the LA Times. One of my books was mentioned in the New York Times. I've been everywhere. And That's what I'm going to teach you today, how to do those things without paying a publicist thousands of dollars. 90% of these things you can do, well, everything that I'm going to teach you today, you can do without the assistance of a publicist. Although I will give you some pointers on when you might think that you want a publicist, but for the most part, you do not need a publicist to land on any of these high-level media placements. You just need a strategy, and you need to understand how the media works. And that is what we will be talking about today, because ultimately visibility means media coverage, right? It means a lot of other things, but it primarily, from my perspective, means media coverage, because the high level media coverage that you can potentially get will get your book in front of the right audience. So let's see if my trusty slides are going to work for me. Okay, so who is this course for, and exactly what will we be covering? So this course is for anybody that has a book that's either coming out or has already been published, or who's in the process of publishing a book. It doesn't matter if it's a self-published book or a traditionally published book. You can use all of the strategies that we're going to talk about today. And by the way, if you publish a book with a publisher, do not expect them to do any marketing of your book, right? Publishing a book traditionally means you're not paying anything upfront. If you're using a reputable publishing company, right? They're handling everything for you, right? Your job was just to write the best book that you could, but they oftentimes have very little budgets. And if you're sort of not on the top of the line list, they have a very small marketing budget. But a traditional publisher has distribution, so they have relationships in places for your book to appear, but that's not marketing, right? That's just distribution. And so you should never expect or be disappointed that just because you publish with a publisher that you can sit back and not do any marketing. And I like to use Will Smith as a great example, right? Everybody knows who Will Smith is. And Will Smith recently, at the time of this video, recently published a book. And if you go to his Instagram, you'll see that he's promoting that book. You'll see that he's traveling to Philadelphia and all around the world promoting this book. And so if Will Smith needs to take time to travel everywhere, to do book signing events, to create engaging content on social media so that people will buy his book, so that people will know that his book exists so that people can buy it, then there is no reason to think that you should not have to do the same thing. So what I want to tell you is, get your ego out of the way and start doing the work of getting more visibility, media coverage, and ultimately income for your book, okay? Don't expect anybody to market your book except for you. Now, if you have a self-published book, it's the same advice, except for you self-publish, so you decided to be an entire publishing company. So you have to worry about more than just writing the book, and more than marketing. You have to worry about everything that comes with a publishing company to position yourself in the best place possible to get your book in front of a wide number of people. Now, I've done both. You see me talk on Instagram a lot about the differences between self-publishing and traditionally publishing. There's pros and cons. Personally, I prefer the traditionally published route. If you do the numbers, you will see that 9 times out of 10, traditionally publishing a book will actually keep more money in your pocket. Now, some people may disagree. I've done both. I run the numbers. The average self-published book only sells about 250 copies. But again, let's use the strategies that I'm going to talk about today to get your self-published book or your traditionally published book to the next level, to amplify your platform, and you will benefit far and wide outside of even just getting recognition for your book. You'll be in front of more people, which will also give you opportunities, new opportunities to make income. Okay, so this course is for anybody that has any type of book that they want to get visibility around and increase their income. So today we are going to talk about 3 types of visibility that I want you to think about. We're going to talk about the difference between owned, paid, and earned media, but we're going to focus on owned and earned media. We're not going to be talking about paid media like Facebook ads and those types of things, because if you're anything like me, when I was first delving into, how to sell more books and that thing, you always hear Facebook ads. You do your Facebook ads $5 a week and that money starts to add up and you see that you're not making any sales. Okay, so we're going to teach you book promotion secrets, right? Not the typical information that you're going to be able to find on Google that most likely has not worked for you. And that is why you're here. So we'll talk about getting local media coverage and the strategies behind that, getting high level media coverage and the strategies behind that. And then we'll talk a little bit about social selling and promotion and what that can look like for you and some strategy behind that. So we'll spend most of our time in these first 4 areas here. Okay, first, let's clear this up because I do book promotion on Fiverr, particularly for people that are publishing things related to comics, right? Comic books, graphic novels, comic book Kickstarters, any type of crowdfunding campaigns related to comics. I promote those things on my platform for a small, affordable fee. So I see tons of predominantly self-published books. Some people with traditionally published books use my service as well, but mostly I'm seeing self-published books. Okay, here's what I want you to understand. Again, when you self-publish a book, you have decided to be a publishing company. You have decided to do every single thing on your own, from book cover to distribution to marketing to writing to editing, etc. Now, the benefits of self-publishing is that you don't have anybody telling you what to do. And that means you don't have people checking over your work unless you choose to pay an editor, unless you choose to pay beta readers. And this could be a very bad thing because the point of editors is to push your book to be better. And if you've chosen to self-publish and you haven't chosen to have someone check over your work and give you critical feedback, you could actually be publishing a very bad book, and not bad in terms of the idea, but bad in terms of the execution, bad in terms of the writing, bad in terms of the presentation. And the reason why I stress this is not because I want to discourage anyone, but I want to push you to have those checkpoints in your self-publishing process so that when you use a service like mine to sell your book, the copy on the Amazon page or the sales page is flawless. The writing is the best writing that you can possibly do, and you have paid an editor to invest in making your book better. Because if you're going to be pitching yourself to media outlets and putting your book out there or using services like mine to promote your book, you want the book to be good. You don't want to have typos in the copy. You don't want to have multiple typos in the book. Now, I am not the typo queen, okay? And I say this because I think most books are going to have typos. Even books that are published by publishers have the 1 or 2 typos. I'm talking about flagrant typos where it's clear that the person did not put the care, the time, the effort, and the money into presenting their book in the best light possible. And so before you try to pitch yourself to those high-level media placements, whether it's Good Morning America that you want to be on, or The Breakfast Club, or wherever it is, make sure your book is the best representation and the very best that you can do at the moment. Now, if you've traditionally published your book, you don't have to worry about this as much, because there's people whose job it is to make sure they push you to have the best possible book. But if you traditionally publish a book, You want to communicate with your publisher and let them know, hey, I have these marketing ideas. I am a marketing machine. I'm going to work with you. I'm going to go above and beyond to do things like, buy ads for the book, to do things like promote the book on social media, to use the strategies in this course so that I can create more visibility, media coverage, and income for my book. You want to communicate that to your publisher, because when the publisher knows you're interested in marketing and you're communicating with them, it actually inspires them to help out a little bit more on the marketing side. But also, you don't want to do anything that's going to make the publisher, to do anything that's in breach of your contract, right? So you just want to, let's say you wanted to buy a billboard, for instance, right? Before you put that billboard on the side of like Highway 95, that's something that you would want to run through the publisher. Hey, check over this billboard, make sure you're not in breach of your contract or anyway, or those types of things. Tell them your plans, okay? So 3 types of visibility that I want to talk about with you today. So there's the low-hanging fruit, there's the mid-level visibility, and there's the high-level visibility. And I'm going to go through what each of these look like and can be and the strategy behind it. But you want to start low and then go high, okay? Right out the gate, you shouldn't be pitching, ABC, NBC, these high-level media outlets for high-level visibility if you haven't even spent your time and effort with the easy things, with the low-hanging fruit, and spent time with the low-hanging fruit consistently and put your all into it. So what's the low-hanging fruit? The low-hanging fruit in terms of visibility and media coverage generally requires a lot more effort and a lot less return in terms of the visibility and impact of what that's going to do for your book. So you can think of things that are low-hanging fruit, like the things that you've probably already been doing, posting on social media, reaching out to your friends to let them know that you have a book out or a book coming out, posting links on different sites online to your purchase page, even using a cheap promotion service like Minds to get as a part of your marketing strategy. Even things like your local newspaper. And when I say local newspaper, I'm talking about like the newspaper in your neighborhood. Like in my neighborhood, we have the Southwest Globe Times, which is in Southwest Philadelphia. That's low-hanging fruit because they'll most likely want to do a story on you because you're in the neighborhood and you've done this amazing thing of publishing a book. Or even if you just did a small paid ad in your local newspaper, that's low-hanging fruit. And posting on social media, all of those things that you're probably already familiar with, they take more effort and they have less return, but you have to do that work first and get comfortable with understanding how to sell your book and how to sell a story to local media, how to get people to click on your links in places like Reddits and subreddits or on social media, how to get, on even your friend's podcast or a podcast that doesn't even have a lot of followers, right? Because the practice of doing podcast interviews and spending your time doing those interviews, it is actually great prep and practice for pitching yourself to larger, high-level podcasts, podcasts that are run by NPR, podcasts that are run by larger media outlets like Vox Media. If you can't get on those easy, low-hanging fruit podcasts, or you don't want to take the time to pitch yourself to those smaller podcasts that are really quite easy to get on, then you actually don't deserve high-level media coverage because you are putting out into the universe that you're not even willing to do the easy thing. So let's take this example. Let's say there are some podcasts that you can think of right now that you see on your Instagram feed. Have you reached out to them yet to be on their show to talk about your book and your work? Podcasts that don't have a large following, but you can see your homie or your friend is working hard trying to get more visibility around their podcast. Have you been on that podcast? Have you done 20 of those yet? Okay, so when I first started out, I was going on every single podcast I could. Somebody asked me to do a podcast, I'd say yes, I make time to do it. I saw, my friend was doing a podcast or someone in my network was doing a podcast, I'd pitch them, hey, I want to be on your show, and I'd go and do it. Even if they only had 5 downloads a month, I was on that podcast. One, when you're sending emails to these smaller podcasts, yes, it's taking time. And when you're doing like 20 small podcasts that have very small audiences, or maybe they don't even put shows out consistently, one, it's teaching you how to pitch. One, you're putting into the universe that you're willing to do the work. And two, the beautiful thing about podcasts is it might be small today, but next year that thing might blow up. And guess what? If that podcast blows up, and you were there when they first started, you're already in the pipeline for those shows. And now your interview is actually blowing up with them. It's happened to me multiple times. Okay. And so if you Google me, you might see podcasts from what no name podcasts, I'll call them. No disrespect to the podcast community. Some podcasts are more popular than others. We're all out here working and hustling, but you will see I have done a number of them. Okay. Other things around low-hanging fruit. And I'm telling you this because you need to try all of these things and do all of these things first before you can expect, the gold, right? The gold being those high-level media placements, okay? Run a small Kickstarter campaign. Put the work in to put together the best crowdfunding campaign you can. And you might be thinking, well, what does a crowdfunding campaign have to do with a book that I already published? I don't need any money. I already published my book. Because something like Kickstarter is actually an amazing marketing tool. And you don't have to put any money into it. The only thing you have to do is put effort in it. And I'm not talking about a $10,000 Kickstarter campaign. I'm talking about a $500 Kickstarter campaign, $1,000 Kickstarter campaign, something small. Because the thing is, if you do a $500 Kickstarter campaign or an $1,000 Kickstarter campaign, okay, you are creating a vehicle to market your book, and you're creating a loyal following that you can then give rewards to, who are then going to go out in the world and talk about your book and share your book. And in the process of your Kickstarter campaign, not only you're going to reach the goal to put a little bit of money in your pocket because you already spent money creating your book if you self-published your book, but you are promoting and marketing your book in the process. And so I think I did an $1,000 Kickstarter campaign and ended up raising $3,000 because I put stretch goals in there for my self-published book. Now I have email addresses that I am going to then go use later on my mailing list to sell them the next book. You have to think about your future self in this game of book promotion. Think about your future self. And I do an $1,000 Kickstarter, very low goal. I raise $1,000. Now I have emails. So then later when I publish my next book, I'm going to email those people on my mailing list, say, hey, I have another book coming out. Do you want to pre-order this book? Or in the course of the year, I'm going to be talking to that list about the different things that I am doing with my existing book. Hey, I'm doing this awesome book signing event. Let your friends and family know, right? So crowdfunding, don't think about it only as a way to make money. Think about it as a marketing tool. Go and do a very small Kickstarter campaign, put your all into it, make it the best campaign you can. Use those email addresses to benefit you later, but also use the Kickstarter campaign as a way to do marketing and promotion for your book. And it has the benefit of putting money in your pocket so that you can then go use those Kickstarter dollars to spend more money on media coverage and visibility down the line, or even use the money for your next book product. Now, other low-hanging fruit are free speaking engagements in your community. Go to the church, talk about your book. Go to the schools that you went to, talk about your book. Go to the local rec center, talk with the community about your book. Get out, start sending emails to do free speaking engagements about your book's topic, or about the writing process, or about any aspect of your book. We're going to talk a little bit about how you can sell books at free speaking engagements towards the end. But first, I want you to understand that the low-hanging fruit is doing free speaking engagements at your local school. I'm in the city of Philadelphia. There's lots of public schools that I can say, hey, I want to come in and talk to your students about my new book, and I'll do it for free. Because the more you put out there, the more people you reach, the more abundance will come back to you in terms of visibility, media coverage, and income. If you don't believe me, go try it. Here's what I want you to do right now. Stop, excuse me. Y'all got me all hyped. I gotta take a sip of water. Stop, take a pen and a piece of paper, write down some goals for the low-hanging fruit. You're gonna reach out to 5 local newspapers. You're gonna craft some emails around your book and tell them about your book and that you want to be featured in the newspaper. We'll talk a little bit about what these emails should look like a little bit, but your goal, reach out to 5 local newspapers. Maybe you go to fiverr.com or somewhere like that, and you pay somebody $70 to post links to your book in subreddits that are related to your book's topic. You're going to create a goal. Maybe you're going to post twice a week about your book, some engaging Instagram reels or some engaging social media content. Not, hey, here's my book, go buy it. That's not engaging. Go to my Instagram page at Dr. Sheena Howard, and you can see I've been doing some creative reels that feature my book in different ways. It's not asking them to buy it. It's not asking them to sell it. What we're doing is getting visibility first. Okay. Write a goal to start your Kickstarter campaign with a low campaign funding budget, and write a date for when you want to have that campaign launched. Write down 15 to 20 podcasts that you're aware of just from Instagram that look like, they're not high level podcasts, but there are people hustling, trying to get people on their shows. Go back through emails or IGs where people may have asked you to do a podcast in your local town, city, even local radio stations. I ever remember I went on a show called Black Girl Tribbles. It was Black Tribbles. It was my first radio interview. A couple of local people in the city of Philadelphia. They were always looking for guests. Their podcast was in the area of what my area is. And so I pitched them and I went on the show. Okay. So you're going to write down 5 podcasts and potentially 5 radio shows in your immediate town or city. And you're going to have to do research for this. And then you're going to make a goal to email them. Hey, I want to be featured on your podcast. I want to be featured on your radio show. Here's why I think I'm a good fit. Here's the book I just published. Here's what the book is about. Here's why I think your audience will like it. That's the gist of types of emails you're going to send. They're not going to be long emails. They're going to be short because these people may get a lot of emails per day. You're going to keep it short. Then write down 5 to 10 places that you can reach out to do free speaking engagements. And you're going to say, hey, I'd love to come speak to your class, your students, your community about the writing process of my book. Because sometimes you're not selling the topic of your book. Maybe you just are doing a speaking engagement about the writing process. Okay. There's lots of different angles to pitch yourself for these things. It depends on the outlet, the place, the person that you're pitching to. And then you figure out what's the best way to craft this email to compel them to want to bring you in to speak. All right. So Do the low-hanging fruit first. This is the strategy. And then you move up over the months or even years to mid-level and then high-level media placements and outlets. Okay. Mid-level visibility. So generally speaking, mid-level visibility takes a little less effort than the low-hanging fruit, and there's more return. There's more return on your visibility. There's more return on the eventual income, right? Which is, the result of people buying your book because they've seen you, heard you talk, seen you around, know your work, etc. So mid-level visibility could really be high level, but it's more on a local level. Okay, so you want to think about local newspapers, different than the one from the previous slide, local newspapers that actually have a national or international reach. So remember, in the last slide, I talked about the newspaper in my immediate area, Southwest Philadelphia. But what we're talking about here, in my example, Philadelphia, would be things like the Philadelphia Inquirer. Those types of news outlets or online outlets that are local, that will be interested in a local author and their story or the topic of their book, but have greater reach, have an active following that are popular. So you want to think about mid-level visibility in terms of local organizations or media outlets, as well as local podcasts that are active and popular and that people know about. So for example, a mid-level visibility example is, I was on a podcast called Love and Grit, which I think it's a podcast from visitphilly.com, which is a very popular website, right? If you're going to visit Philly, you most likely would land on visitphilly.com. So this has national and international reach, but it's mid-level in terms of it's very specific to Philadelphia. So it's not like, Good Morning America or NBC, but it has millions of followers. I know that people are going to land on visitphilly.com and come across this podcast. In fact, this podcast interview was an interview that my son's teacher listened to on her way to school one day. And she's like, oh my goodness, Sheena, I heard you on this podcast. So think about, and this takes research. Some of them you might know off the top of your head because maybe you're familiar with podcasts in your city that has millions of followers or is connected to a larger organization or the city or local government in your town or city. But this takes research. You need to research. Hold on, it says, oh no, I opened this AirPods thing and it looked like my audio had changed, but I think that it went back to normal. Okay, so these might take there's going to take a little less effort because now you're getting a little bit more targeted. So you're not just reaching out and to lots and lots of places. You're going to write down a list of these sort of mid-level outlets that you want to target, and you're going to pitch them. And since you already done the work with the low-hanging fruit, you should be getting more adept and skilled at the types of emails and crafting those emails to pitch your story, to pitch your book, to pitch yourself, to get on to these media outlets, okay, on a higher level. Same thing for this mid-level visibility strategy for speaking engagements with a bigger platform, right? So we're moving beyond doing, speaking engagements at your church or local community centers or local schools, and we want to get you to do speaking engagements on a bigger platform. Think about things like pitching universities in your city or state to go talk about the writing process, topics in your book. For example, I did a book on domestic abuse. So I was trying to do speaking engagements, around, I was trying to pitch myself for speaking engagements around that topic. And I ended up doing speaking engagements at some universities that wanted to talk about, harassment, domestic abuse, that type of thing. So these are going to be more speaking engagements that are going to pay you, whether it's $1,000 or $5,000, to come talk about whatever the topic is that is related to your book. They have a bigger platform, and it'll be a great marketing tool when you do those speaking engagements to share those on social media. Okay, you do these speaking engagements. You want to create a list of speaking engagements with a bigger platform that you can pitch. I'm going to say right now, write a list, go do some research, create a list of 20 places that you think you can successfully pitch for a speaking engagement. Reach out to chairs, deans, organization leaders, company owners that have spaces for you to do a speaking engagement, whether virtually or in person. Because what you're doing here is you're getting in front of more people so that more people have the chance to buy your book. When you do speaking engagements, people share those speaking engagements out with others, so it has a compounding effect in terms of visibility. And then you have social media content to share that is not simply saying, hey, here's my book, buy it. Instead, you're saying, awesome time at this speaking engagement talking about my newest book or the writing process for my newest book. We're going to talk about something called selling from the back of the room in a little bit in terms of speaking engagements. And then as we go through this, we're going to get into some tactical strategy and how you can think about crafting emails to land these even low and mid-level visibility strategies. So hang in there with me. I'm going to show you some specific examples of messages that I've sent to get on places like The Breakfast Club, NBC News, etc. And it's the same strategy over and over again. So once you see how I've done that once, you're going to apply those principles to the places that you want to appear. Okay, I'm going to stop share really quick because I have to check something. Bear with me. Yeah, let me, my apologies. I just remembered that I'm sharing some information with you on a future slide, and I need to take the email address out because I don't want to share an email address without someone's consent. So I'm just going to remove it real quick. There we go. Just crossing it out. All right, boom. All right, now I can go back and share my screen with you. Where were we? We were at mid-level. All right, cool. Okay, play from current slide. All right, so we were here and we were moving on. Okay, so now we can talk about the big dogs, the high level visibility, the high level platforms, media coverage, visibility, right? The name of the game is getting in front of as many people as possible. Now, here's the beautiful thing about media coverage as well. The more times you appear on low level, mid level, high level platforms, the more you get to talk about those things on social media, the more people pay attention, the more people think you are doing bigger and better things, because getting media coverage is validation to the public that you have something to say and share. Now they start paying attention. So high level visibility in general requires more strategy, not more effort, because if you're using my method of starting low in order to eventually go high, you've already put the effort in before. So when it comes time to pitch yourself to high level media coverage, it just involves more strategy. And when you get to this point where when you're ready to start pitching for high level visibility, you have learned so much in terms of what gets producers, journalists, editors to respond to your email and put you on the show, because you've been practicing it. And also you become an expert of how you should show up on these shows. You become an expert of how a podcast interview is different than a TV interview, is different than a radio interview, and you become great at being an interviewee because you've practiced the low level and mid level strategies that I'm sharing with you in this course. Okay, so high level visibility, by the time you get to this point and you're ready to execute on this stuff, just requires a little bit more strategy, requires a little bit more thought in the way that you reach out to these people, but there's greater return. Obviously, there's going to be greater return when you're appearing on well-branded national and international media platforms. Okay, so the types of things that we're thinking about when we talk about high-level visibility, and I promise you on the next slide, next few slides, I'm going to show you the strategy and the tactics that you can adapt to your own situation. But now we're going big. We're talking about Good Morning America, NBC, NPR, PBS. And by the way, this stuff works well in conjunction with your branding. So, I'm not talking about branding and your brand statement and your brand identity in terms of social media and your website, but these things work better when you start to build a brand. Now, a large part of building a brand is getting media coverage, because when people Google the certain thing that you're a writer in, or the area that you're a writer in, your name's going to start to pop up. That's branding. For example, if someone types in Black comics in Google, I know that something about me is going to come up on the first or second page because I've spent a decade doing work around Black comics. So having a brand and doing those low-level and mid-level media strategies start to create a brand. So now when these larger organizations are Googling Black comics or whatever the thing is you're a writer in, your name and interviews start to pop up. So by the time you get to this point and you're employing these strategies, you still have to pitch yourself, you still have to reintroduce yourself, but now you're getting a lot more opportunities and a lot more people coming to you. Hey, do you want to be on this show? Hey, I saw a previous interview that you did. We'd love to interview you for X, Y, and Z. That's how it works, right? That's how it works. But you got to start low and go high. So, so we're talking about major national, international podcasts, speaking gigs, media platforms, newspapers, online sites. So let's talk about some strategy in a minute. So there are 3 types of media that you want to be thinking about, that you want to shoot for when we're talking about more high level visibility. There's owned media, there's earned media, and there's paid media. Now, I'm not going to focus on paid media because I'm sure if you're here, you've already tried the Facebook ads for $5 a week and then went up to $20 a week, and you saw that probably your targeting wasn't right. You ended up spending more money than you bargained for, and that's probably why you're here. But we're going to talk about earned media, which is media that you don't pay for, and a little bit about owned media, because the goal is to get earned media at a high level, okay? That's the goal, right? But as I said, you have to do the small things first. So before we move on, ask yourself, have you done everything that you can on your owned media platform? So this is going to be your mailing list. If you didn't create a mailing list, right, we talked about this a little bit, start creating a mailing list. When you go to those free speaking engagements, right, when you're going through this process, you go to those free speaking engagements, book conventions, networking places, you need to have a sheet of paper. You need to start collecting email addresses. Hey, thanks for coming to my speaking. See, the thing about free speaking engagements is you're doing them for free, and you might feel like you're not getting paid. Maybe they're a waste of your time, but they're not. You're getting visibility. You're getting in front of different people that have larger networks that are going to introduce you to more opportunities. But you maximize this experience by passing around your piece of paper. Can you write your email address and your name here so that I can enter you into my mailing list, so that you know when my next book is coming out, so that you can get free book offers, yada, yada, yada. By the time you get to the point here that I'm teaching you right now, you should have a pretty big mailing list, because everywhere you went, you collected email addresses. You did a virtual speaking engagement, you're putting a link in the chat to your mailing list so that people can go to your mailing list and sign up to hear from you more. So the goal is earned media at a high level. The goal is to do lots and lots of the low-hanging fruit, the mid-level visibility, so that these larger outlets start coming to you because you've built your brand, you've done all of these interviews. But you have to do the small things first. Okay, so again, own media. Have you exhausted and done to the best of your ability things like your blog, writing engaging articles on your blog, and linking to your book? Now, you might say, I don't have time to do a blog. I have a full-time job. I got all these other things. I got kids, whatever it is. But again, think back to the Will Smith example, okay? Nobody's going to market your book for you. And you have to exhaust and put in the effort on the easy things if you want to expect to get high level visibility and media coverage. Now, for your blog, I was the same way. I don't have time. I can't do a blog. I'm doing all these other things. But I set a schedule to just do one blog post a month, the last Friday of every month. Try to make it non-negotiable. Try to make it like, using the bathroom is non-negotiable. So say, hey, last Friday of every month, I'm just going to write a blog on whatever. Write a blog on whatever you want to share with the world. But in that blog, you're going to put links to your book, right? Okay. This is own media that you control. It's easy. It's low-hanging fruit. Share that blog out on your social media, right? You have to move away from just posting about your book. Hey, buy my book, right? People get tired of that. And you get tired of that, right? Instead, give people content on your blog, link to your book. Mailing list, we talked about that. These are all owned media. Now, here's the thing. Here's an interesting thing. Here's an interesting way to think about owned media, right? We talked a little bit before about the things you should be doing before you even put your book out, especially if you're self-published. But this goes for traditionally published books too. Think about your book as owned media. It's something that you own, right? Whether you publish with a traditional publisher or self-published, it's something that you own and have some control over, obviously more control if you are self-published. But when I publish a book with publishers or even when I self-publish, I go in knowing that I want an influencer or celebrity to write the forward and afterward to my book. So look up my books, Encyclopedia of Black Comics. Henry Louis Gates wrote the forward. Chris Priest wrote the afterward. Why Wakanda Matters. Philip Boutte, the concept design artist for the actual movie Black Panther, wrote the forward. Okay, my first Eisner Award-winning book, Black Comics, Politics of Race and Representation. I had people in the field that were known in the field contributing to the book in some way or writing the forward and afterward. People like Professor William Foster, people that were known in the field, contributed to that book. So when you're putting your book together, whether it's self-published or traditionally published, you're going to tell your publisher, hey, here's a list of people that I think should write endorsements, high-level people, celebrities, influencers. Hey, here's somebody that I would really love to write the forward. I talk a lot about this in a separate video about how you can get celebrities and influencers to write forwards and afterwards for your book. I'm not going to go into detail today on that, but you don't have to know these celebrities and influencers personally in order to ask them to write the forward or afterward to their book. You could have a loose connection. You could have someone in your network that can introduce you. You could have someone in your network that you've learned has a relationship with some of these influencers that might help you get their email address, right? Maybe you've been at a convention before and one of these influencers or celebrities gave you a business card and you kept it. By the way, I never throw business cards out because you never know when you're going to need somebody. And if you have a whole box of business cards, you can always just look through and find what you need. So let me give you an example. For my self-published book, Nina's Whisper, what I did was I asked people like Mark Lamont Hill, who a lot of people know, right? He's a public figure. Daryl Stevens, who was in the show Noah's Ark, which was a really popular show in the 2000s. I got them to write endorsements for my self-published book. Okay. I use my network, and I had known them before, right? Doing the low-hanging fruit work, appearing in all of these places. At some point, that stuff pays off because you rub shoulders with different people, or different people know different people. Hey, have you ever met Mark Lamont Hill? I actually know him, that type of thing. I got them to write reviews for my book. So their reviews are on the Amazon product page. So even though it's a self-published book, these influencers and celebrities have their name attached to my book. That could be very beneficial, right? Maybe when the book comes out, they share the book on their platform. So now you're borrowing their audience and getting in front of their audience, right? Henry Louis Gates wrote the foreword to my book, Encyclopedia of Black Comics. Now, I have the star power to say, hey, even Henry Louis Gates endorsed this book by writing the foreword. So think about your book as owned media, and how can you use the book itself before the book is even published in the writing process and thinking about your book. How can you get celebrities and influencers on that book so that when the book comes out, you can use that to then craft a story when you're pitching media outlets down the line, right? Because obviously it's going to be a lot easier for me to pitch, say, NBC or The Breakfast Club or places like that if I can say, hey, and even Henry Louis Gates wrote the foreword to this book, right? Now, I've never met Henry Louis Gates. I shook his hand once when I went to a session that he came to. He was on a panel. I shook his hand. Hey, I'm Sheena Howard. You wrote the foreword to Encyclopedia of Black Comics. That was me, right? So sometimes the difference between you and your competitor, or somebody that's doing something you want to do, is that they sent an email that you were scared to send. Okay. So whether it's pitching the Breakfast Club or something like that, I just send an email to these people. But when you send an email, these people Google you, they see that you're all over the internet doing all of these podcasts, right? People want to talk to you, right? It's validation that you are somebody that they should work with, right? Because a lot of times, believe it or not, these influencers and celebrities, they actually want to connect with people who are doing great work that may not be discovered yet, but they want to be associated with this project that could potentially, go somewhere, and their name is attached to it. If you do good work, if you do quality work, people in high places will be more likely to attach their name to something you do. So that's why I say, going back to the beginning, if you self-publish a book, put your all into it. Don't cut corners. Don't have a product page with typos. Have a product page with star powered reviews on there, and write the best book you can, because when people see that you do good work, when you then go and ask someone that is behind a door that you're trying to get into to work with you, they can see that you do quality work. So before you think about earned media that you don't have to pay for, drill into the owned media, the things that you control. And then the earned media has a way of presenting itself to you when you least expect it. And when you use these strategies, you'll be amazed that you'll get to a point where you don't even have to pitch larger media outlets. They're actually coming to you and finding you and asking you to be on their shows or their platforms because of all of the effort and work that you put in. Okay, so earned media at a high level is a trophy, right? It's great, right? And by the way, speaking about NPR, NPR has a lot of different shows, and they're like in every city and town, right? So Philadelphia has its own NPR WHYY, right? New York has its own NPR, right? So depending on your location, NPR and those shows on NPR might be great places for you to pitch, because they're always looking for local stories, and they have so many different shows on your local NPR station that you'll be surprised that it might be easier to get onto those outlets than you think. And the beautiful thing about high level media coverage is they have affiliates everywhere that might pick up your story, and they run your story multiple times. So I remember when I was on ABC, they came to my office and filmed me and did a whole spot on me in terms of the Wonder Woman story that I wrote. And actually that ABC, the Philadelphia ABC, they ran the story on. That is actually how Good Morning America found me, Good Morning America Digital, because they actually have someone that it's their job to look through local media coverage affiliated with ABC to rerun their stories. So the producer that reached out to me to cover me said, "Hey, I was looking through local media coverage and I found your story on ABC Philly, and we love to do something with you on Good Morning America Digital, which is a more national platform." And the beautiful thing is ABC Philly, that spot, they ran it multiple times. So I was on television multiple times. So media coverage and visibility. I say that to say that media coverage and visibility has a compounding interest effect, because a lot of times with these media spots and shows that you're on, they live on the internet for the rest of your natural life, and people can find them later on, maybe years down the line, and then invite you to do different things, right? Or invite you for different opportunities, more media coverage, etc. Okay, so for these high level media spots, you want to create a plan, and the plan is yours to create. There's no linear one way to get media coverage on major media outlets. Create your plan, feel good about your plan, and then go execute. Okay? So right here, you see a tweet. It says, "Charlamagne the God just started following me on Twitter. That made my night." This was all a part of a plan that I constructed on my own to get on the Breakfast Club. So what I want you to do right now, or after, or you can pause this and come back later, is to think about somewhere that you want to appear that is high level, whether it's Good Morning America, right? Whether it's your favorite show that you watch, somewhere that's like a dream place to appear on, because the Breakfast Club was like a dream goal for me, but I knew I could do it because I constructed a plan, which I'm going to tell you about in a minute. And write those down, right? All of this starts out with a goal. So I had a goal to be on an ABC show called Here and Now. I had a goal to be on the Breakfast Club and a few other goals, and I ended up reaching all of those goals. There's one show that I want to be on that I have not reached yet, and that is Terry Gross's show. So that's great, right? So my plan to get on the Breakfast Club was this. I said, the main person that I need to reach first is Charlamagne the God. Okay, because he's all over the place. And so I said, I already understood that Twitter was the place where you are going to have the best chance to get media coverage and visibility. So Instagram is great. That's where the young people are, but that is not the best place to get visibility and media coverage. All of the editors, journalists, producers are actually on Twitter. Think about it. Editors, journalists, they're writers. The journalists that have the key to writing the story about you is going to be on Twitter. And a lot of these people on Twitter actually run their own accounts. It's actually them running their account. So you want to get media coverage, you better get active on Twitter. And actually, a lot of people find me on Twitter because of the content that I'm posting. If I post about something in my content area that's happening in the culture today, and someone that follows me is in a place to do a story for a major media outlet, and they see me posting, or they're searching for a content expert to talk about X, Y, and Z, and I'm posting about that, well, they're going to see my platform and they're going to ask me to come speak. So this strategy for the Breakfast Club, I want you to take note of this because it's a strategy that anybody can use to get on any show. First, it starts out with a goal. Figure out where you want to be, a high level place you want to be. Think creatively about that. Now, the Breakfast Club is not an obvious place for me to set my sights on. It's a show about hip hop. I don't do anything in regards to hip hop. But I knew that the audience that tunes into the Breakfast Club has some overlap between the audience that I want to get in front of. I do stuff on Black comics. Comics and hip hop actually have an amazing historical relationship. Charlamagne likes comics. So now, right, you start to see the story that I'm crafting in my head about how I am going to pitch myself to be on that show. Get to know the host. Start following the host. So in this case, I started following Charlamagne the God. Step one, following him, see what he's posting about, see what he likes. He posts something about comics, say, for example, since that's my area, I'm going to jump in. Oh, hey, I'm going to make an engaging comment. Every once in a while, I'm going to direct him to my work. Hey, actually, I wrote this encyclopedia of Black comics, Charlamagne. You might be interested in it since you just mentioned something about X-Men, right? This is just an example. But I'm learning through what Charlamagne is posting on Twitter about the things that he likes and cares about. Okay, so in 2016, you can see that this tweet says September 11, 2016. This was a part of my plan. Let me start engaging with Charlamagne to get him to follow me. It was important that he followed me because for the most part, you can't DM someone on Twitter unless they follow you. Now, I think some celebrities can make it so that anybody can DM them, but for the most part, I couldn't send Charlamagne a personal message unless he followed me. So I spent a couple of months making engaging comments on his post. And I said, I need to get him to follow me. Step one, that happened. Okay. So once he followed me, I knew, okay, now I can speak directly to Charlamagne in the DMs. Okay. And that was going to be important because I pitch myself on Twitter in the DMs. You're going to see a couple of examples and you're going to learn from them, and then you can go and execute these strategies. Okay. Now, I didn't just wake up the next morning and start DMing Charlamagne. He would have unfollowed me. He would have been like, who's this crazy person? I should have never followed this person. He would have unfollowed me. Before you start DMing editors, journalists, producers, celebrities, you got to start thinking about the story that you're going to craft and the story that you're going to tell them in a DM, right? And then you got to be paying attention to the opportune time to pitch them. Generally, when you're pitching media outlets, you have to make your pitch newsworthy, relevant, and timely. We're going to talk more about this on the next slide. And I think we got about 20 minutes left. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit. We talked about creating goals and a strategy, right? You're going to write the goals of your dream media outlets. You're going to devise your own strategy, right? The internet's not going to give you the strategy. The internet didn't give me this strategy. I'm taking you through these steps, but ultimately you're going to do what works for you in modeling this blueprint. Okay, so again, let's just recall the takeaways. I knew I had to start engaging with Charlamagne's content on Twitter because I wanted him to follow me, because the next step was to get him to follow me so that I can DM him. I paid attention throughout those months before he followed me to see what he was interested in, cared about, talked about, and basically what was going on in his life, right? Some people were coming down on him about some of his interviews regarding LGBTQ people, or the way that his guests talked about LGBTQ people, right? Maybe that's an angle that I could use later to slide in to get into his DMs, right? Think about all the different ways, if it's relevant to crafting your story to pitch. Okay, think about when you pitch these people, it has to be newsworthy, relevant, and timely. You have to give editors and journalists a story. You can't just say, hey, I got a new book out, I would love to be on your show. No, you have to understand who they are, the types of content that they're putting out, and then connect your book or any angle around your book to why they should care and have you on. Why should they want to talk to you? You got to give them the why. right? It's not about selling your book to them. It's about selling the story. Either you're selling yourself or you're selling the contents of the book. Sometimes it makes more sense to pitch a journalist and sell yourself. So, for example, Good Morning America, I didn't have to pitch them. They came to me. But when she came to me and was brainstorming story ideas with me, I said, hey, I did write this story about Wonder Woman. And I think the story is interesting enough. But actually, I want to tell you a little bit about my neighborhood and how I grew up in a neighborhood with a large chemical site at the corner that was actually the inspiration for the Wonder Woman story. So that Good Morning America story ended up being more about me and my life and my experience in my neighborhood in Philadelphia. And then they linked to my books. Okay. So sometimes you got to pitch yourself. Sometimes you got to pitch the topic of your book. And I would say very rarely you're pitching the actual book itself, right? Sometimes people are interested in the person behind the book, or they're buying your thing for you, not the actual book. You've told a compelling story about yourself and the inspiration behind the book, and that's why they want to interview you, right? They can talk about anybody's book, but what's so compelling about you, and the process behind the book, as opposed to the contents of the actual book? Okay. Next thing is, don't give up. The first time I DM'd Charlemagne, he didn't respond. I didn't just say, oh, he didn't respond, that's it, I'm not going to be on that shade. No, I DM'd him again at a more strategic time where I felt like he might respond. All right. So he followed me, and here are the DMs. These are the actual DMs, y'all. Like, I'm preaching what I'm telling you. This is not a game. I pitch people in the DMs. This is what I do. This is what I did back then. I don't have to do it anymore because I'm already out there and people, ask me to be on their shows. But if maybe I said I wanted to be on the Terry Gross show. So maybe I need to go and use my, I'm just riding right now because people ask me to be on shows, but maybe I need to go back and write my list of goals and start pitching even higher level media outlets in this. And when I do, I'm going to be using these same strategies. That's the point I'm trying to make. So here's what I said. Here's exactly what I said. Hi, Charlemagne. Just writing to let you know that I'm available for interviews on July 19th. Superb, written by myself, and David Walker will release. I'm telling him about a comic book that I have coming out. Now, I've been following Charlemagne. I know that he's remotely interested in comic books because he's mentioned it a few times, right? It's the third title from Lion Forge's new Catalyst Prime universe. Right? You can read this yourself. As a Black woman, I am breaking into the white and male-dominated comics industry that suffers from representation. I'm giving him the story of why his predominantly Black audience would care about what I have to say, okay? In addition, in September, my newest book, Encyclopedia of Black Comics, will drop. It's highly anticipated. The book has a foreword by Henry Louis Gates and Chris Priest. Now, remember, something I told you earlier, get celebrities and influencers to participate in some way in your book, because when it's time to pitch media outlets to get visibility, you can use their names, right? Charlemagne had no idea who I was, but when you see Henry Louis Gates has endorsed the book, and effectively by writing the foreword, Henry Louis Gates did endorse the book, he's going to pay attention. Henry Louis Gates, right? Because everybody knows that name. And if he's in the comics, he's going to know who Chris Priest was because he wrote Black Panther. So the things you do early on benefit your future self. So if you're watching this course, you might want to say, I'm going to jump to getting high level media coverage and start pitching and start using Sheena's method. No. You're not setting yourself up for success. You got to do the easy, low-hanging fruit things. You got to do the mid-level things so that when you get to the point of pitching these larger media outlets, you have all the pieces in there. When Charlemagne goes to Google me, right? He sees I've been on all these other media outlets, right? He sees that, little things. I'm verified on Twitter, right? He sees all of these things. He sees that I've been consistent. He sees that other people have validated me because I've been on some of these other placed shows and media placements. Okay. So I said, hope to hear from you. Okay. So I had to, this is not the only DM that I had sent to Charlemagne. This is the successful one, but this is the second one. I had DM'd him before and didn't get a response. So then I DM'd him again when I noticed that he was going through something. So people were coming down on him. They were mad at him because of how he was handling interviews when it came to LGBTQ people. And this is why I say you got to pay attention, because these are real people, and these real people have real feelings. And sometimes when you message them at a time where everybody on the internet, right, thousands of people are coming at him mad, and then when you send him a friendly message, this message is saying, hey, Charlemagne, I still rock with you, right? Hey, I still want to be on your show. I still rock with you, right? I'm getting him in a moment where he might be feeling, oh man, I'm getting all these messages. Everybody's in the LGBTQ communities mad at me, yada, yada, yada. And then you get this nice DM from Sheena Howard, somebody that, right? By this point, he might actually recognize my name, because remember, I did the small stuff. I was engaging with his comments on Twitter. Okay, I had already DM'd him. I created some sense of, because I'm thinking at this point, oh, I know he has to know my name, right? I know the name has to be familiar because he's seen it, because I've been commenting on his post and that kind of thing. Now, I'm going to tell you something that happened that you might chalk up to luck. But I'm here to tell you, and I wholeheartedly believe this, when you start putting a plan in action, the universe conspires to help you. And I'm going to put this in perspective for you, right? If you haven't read The Alchemist, go read The Alchemist, because this is all about how when you start putting a plan in action, the universe conspires. Around the time that I sent this message, I think it was either the same day or whatever, somebody on Twitter had tweeted Charlemagne and said, yeah, Charlemagne, you need to have people like Dr. Sheena Howard on your show. And the person added me and added like 3 other people. You need to have Dr. Sheena Howard on the show and these 3 other people. Okay. I didn't tell this person to do that. It just happened like that. Now, you might say that's luck, but let me tell you something. Let's say I didn't do all of the work for all of the months that I just described to you. I hadn't got Charlemagne to follow me. I hadn't been DMing him. I hadn't at least put myself in a position where he would at least recognize my name on Twitter. And that person added me on Twitter and said, hey, Charlemagne, you should have Dr. Sheena Howard on the show. I can guarantee you that I would not have been on the Breakfast Club show, because it just would have been some random tweet. Some guy said Sheena Howard should be on his show. He would have had no idea who I was. He wouldn't have had these DMs to prime him to have me on the show. The other people that person added, I'm sure wasn't on his show. But he chose me because I had already put the work in, and I had already been hitting him up in the DM. So that stroke of luck was actually hard work meeting opportunity. Okay? Is it luck in a sense? Yes. I don't know why that person tagged me in that. And the person that actually tagged me in the tweet and told Charlemagne to have me on the show, he actually had a really super large following. So that's how that goes. Take that information. If you just walk away from this, oh, hey, that was a stroke of luck, I think you're missing the point. And I think that actually doesn't put you in a place of empowerment. And I want you to hear that story as a place of empowerment. So anyway, Charlemagne responds, okay, contact the producer. Let them know I said to schedule you, please. Thank you. I got the producer's email address. I sent the producer an email. In that email, it was actually a longer email. It was longer than I teach people to send now, but I sent him an email, told him why I should be on the show, told him that Charlemagne sent me. I attached my press kit. So you need a press kit, an electronic press kit that shows all the media coverage that you have gotten up to this point. And again, if you put in the effort that I've been telling you, you will have some media, even if it's smaller podcasts, you can put on those press kits, all of the ones that you think are pretty cool. Now, I emailed the producer and he did not email me back. This is where we go back to don't give up. I didn't hear back for like a while. Sent the email again. Now, in this situation, you're almost there. I could have gave up and said, oh, the producer didn't. I could have went back and complained to Charlemagne, but you don't want to be bothering celebrities and influencers with that. You just got to keep going and keep trying. All right. So that's how you pitch in DMs on Twitter, right? Twitter is the most effective place to do this, not Instagram, not any other place. Twitter. Okay. And then August of that year, I was on the Breakfast Club. Now, here's what I want you to take away from this. And we only got 15 minutes left. Think creatively about the type of outlet you should be on. Just gave you an example of that. Borrow audiences. You want to get in front of people with larger audiences. All of the examples that I just gave you explain that. The key is to reach people who are interested in your industry and connect your niche area to timely cultural events or content. Right? So when you are pitching editors, journalists, producers, shows of hosts, you have to give them the story and tell them why they should have you on their show or feature your product. And it has to be timely, newsworthy, and relevant. So if something is going on in the culture that a lot of people are talking about, and you can find a way to connect yourself or your book to the thing that people are already talking about, that is how you pitch to editors and journalists, hosts, producers, etc. Give them the story by connecting it to something that's already happening in the culture. Now, this also could be, Black History Month coming up, Women's History Month coming up, something around something that you can connect to that makes sense for you, right? You got a book that features a sibling relationship, two brothers, I don't know, that are runaway bandits, I don't know. And Siblings Day is coming up, right? National Siblings Day. Months before, you need to start pitching people. Hey, National Siblings, I don't even know if this is a thing. I think it is. National Siblings Day is coming up. I wrote a book about these two brothers that have an amazing relationship, right? Get in the DM, start pitching people, start finding email addresses, start pitching producers and hosts of shows in that way by connecting the thing that you do, the topic of your book, the area of your book, to something that is going on in the culture. This is just another example. They did a feature piece on me on NBC. Okay. I found this person, Amber Payne, who you can see in here, right? She founded NBC Black. That's a great place for me to be on. I wanted to pitch her something around my book, Encyclopedia of Black Comics. Same strategy. Okay. And you'll notice that these are all from around 2016 and 2017 when I was doing this, and I don't have to do it in 2022. Since 2020 and 2019, I haven't had to do this as much because I've already done the work of getting these media placements so people can now find me. Hi there, Amber. I know you're really busy, right? I'm showing that I respect her time. Tremaine introduced us via email. Again, that was just me using my network. And I submitted a piece to you about blah, blah, blah. I submitted this is around the time where I was writing like blogs for national outlets. That's another thing, writing blogs and op-eds for national outlets, linking to your website where your book is going to appear. So people see me writing for the Huffington Post. They click on my name. It takes them to my website, right? It leads them to my book. Talk about visibility. So you can see that I had to send Amber multiple emails. She didn't respond to the first one, sent her a second one, right? I'm going to have to edit this out because my information is here. That's fine. So you can see that I had to send her multiple messages, okay? Until eventually she responded. Now look, this is August 2016. She didn't respond to October 2017. Don't give up. All right. And then you see I was featured in NBC News, NBC Black, eventually. Okay. Let me fix this typo here real quick. Let me stop this. Alrighty. My bad, y'all. I'm just trying to can I fix this typo real quick on here? I don't think I'm gonna be able to fix it real quick. There we go. All right. My bad, y'all. So let's get this show back started. All right. We're going to be wrapping up here in a minute. Thank you for your time. I hope this is beneficial. I hope you're learning a lot. Okay, so remember, start low, go high. When we're talking about earned media, I think you got the point, right? Okay, so we're gonna talk for, let me see something. Okay, yeah, we got 2 slides left. So we're gonna talk for the rest of this next 10 minutes about social selling and promotion. And the reason why I'm not spending a lot of time on this is because, quite frankly, if you're here, you've probably been posting on social media, but you're not engaging in social selling. And social selling is the low-hanging fruit. Again, more effort, less return, but eventually it has a compounding effect, and you can make income by selling your books on social media. So one of the things I did with my self-published book, Nina's Whisper, is that book was about domestic abuse, same-sex domestic abuse to be specific. So it had a little bit of twist to it because not a lot of people are talking about same-sex domestic abuse. So I actually took profits and proceeds from the sales of that book and donated money to a domestic abuse organization. And I actually wrote it on the product page on Amazon. Hey, you buy this book, 50% of the proceeds are going to go to this domestic abuse organization, right? So this gets the target audience that I might want to reach or might be interested in this topic to care about this book, but it also has the organization promote the book on their platform and all of the people involved with that organization. So if you can, when we're talking about social selling and having engaging content to share on social media outside of just, hey, here's my book, it's out, go buy it. If you can connect your book to some social organization, and you can do this if your book doesn't even necessarily deal with any social justice topic, you can just say, hey, proceeds from this book are going to a nonprofit that I really care about around mental health, right? And then you can talk about that on your platform and have that organization work to help you promote the book, right? And you can do this with a small nonprofit organization. It doesn't have to be a large nonprofit organization. But you also want to post consistently about relevant on-brand topics, and that's how you get more earned media. So I talked about this. When I post on social media, it's on brand for me, right? My brand is I create experiences for free thinkers to feel empowered when they're challenging the status quo. So everything that I post is through that lens. My brand adjectives are smart, empowering, and fearless. So I post through those 3 brand adjectives. Those 3 brand adjectives speak to the best version of myself. And if I'm posting content through that lens, I'm attracting the right opportunities and the right types of people that will care about the subjects that I talk about in any of my books, because my books that I publish and the work that I do, it all falls and relates to that brand. I don't do anything outside of that brand, but you need to be posting consistently, right? And showing that you have a history of being consistent in what you're posting, so that you can get more earned media, because the social media presence and things that you're posting connected to the visibility and media coverage strategies that I taught you here are going to increase the right type of opportunities coming to you, and not just more visibility for your book, but more paid opportunities like speaking engagements, consulting, etc. Okay, so that's 2 things. You want to post consistently and be on brand, do some brand identity work, but also if you can find a way to connect your book to some social cause or donate proceeds of your book to a nonprofit, that's a good marketing vehicle so that you can start selling your book on social media outside of just posting about, hey, buy my book. And so this all speaks to, collaborating around events, around your brand, or around that uh, social cause that you connected with. And of course, when we're talking about social selling, doing things like IG lives on your friends' platforms or platforms that are in your niche brand so that you can get in front of more people. So that the thing about social media is sometimes we think about it as just a way for us to sell stuff, but it's called social media because you're supposed to be social. And so responding to people when they comment and redirecting them to your book. Hey, I'm glad you like this post. If you like this thing that I posted, you might be interested in my recently published book. Then following that up with a DM. Hey, I don't know if you saw my comment, but you seem to be engaged in this content, and it's actually related to a book that I just dropped, right? From there, you can send them to a link to your book, or you can send them to your mailing list to go and sell to them later, right? So social selling, getting outside of the mindset of just posting about your book and actually engaging with the people that are engaging with your content. The last thing that I want to talk about here is speaking engagements. So we talked about speaking engagements and how they are important to your visibility, media, and increase in income. But I just want to make one point home about selling from the back of the room. So I advocated at the beginning, low-hanging fruit is doing free speaking engagements. You can turn those free speaking engagements into something that's profitable for you by saying, hey, I'm going to do this free speaking engagement, but would you mind if I had 50 books set up at a table in the back of the room so that people can buy my book after the speaking engagement? You go do a talk for free in front of even 50 people and you have 50 books in the back. You don't even have to mention that you're selling them anything. At the end of the speaking engagement, right? You just say, hey, I have books in the back if you're interested. They're going to probably want to buy your book. They came to the book for free. You gave them some free information. It doesn't even really, the speaking engagement should be around something related to your book or the writing process or whatever you want to talk about. But just being in that space and getting in front of people and showing them that you're giving them value, and your book's right there for $10 or $20, it becomes easy to get those people to buy your book. So don't forget about how you can maximize free speaking engagements, getting their email addresses. If they don't buy the book then, now you have their email address to sell them later, but also this concept of selling from the back of the room. And also, finally, negotiating pay. So you might say, hey, I can do this speaking engagement for free, but would you mind buying 50 books from me and setting them up in your store, setting them up or selling them for me at the register or whatever, however the venue is set up? You can work with the organizers to actually do the event for free, but have them buy some books. Even if they only buy 10 books, right? That's still a method that you can use to negotiate. And when you're doing paid speaking engagements, right? Maybe they can't pay you as much as you like, but you might be able to say, hey, you can pay me half. The other half, especially if you're doing university speaking engagements, you can say the other half, if you can just buy 50 books and sell them at the register at my speaking engagement event or leave them in the campus bookstore, right? You're then benefiting from more visibility, but also increasing your income in sales from that speaking engagement. So think about that. If you have questions, I'm very active on Instagram. I know I talked a lot about Twitter here, but I'm very active on Instagram. If you have any questions, find me at Dr. Sheena Howard. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Those are the 3 platforms that I'm using the most, and LinkedIn, but I kind of use LinkedIn for my one of my businesses the most. But I'll respond to your message on Instagram and give you some advice. I'll either respond with an audio message, or if I can give you quick advice by typing it up, I will. Now, for things that require extensive answers and feedback, I will shoot you a link to my coaching link, so that I can give you more extensive feedback, and that is paid, but they're quick answers. If you say, hey, I took your course and I'm just curious about X, Y, and Z, for the most part, I might be able to answer your question and give you some free feedback there. Or I'll, if it's a more extensive answer, I'll direct you to a coaching call, and I try to keep those affordable as well. So find me, let me know you took the course, let me know what you think. And I'm here to help. And I look forward to seeing all of you increase your visibility, media coverage, and income using these strategies. All right. Peace.